Hey guys, it's Chris here from Chris's Creative Life, and I design workshops that help you create beautiful projects from start to finish with easy to follow guides. And I'm here today for another in my series about the cardstock from close to my heart. So during the month of April, all the cardstock is on promotion and there's some fun extras that they have added in. So during this month, I decided that I would focus on creating things with cardstock. So during the first week, we played around with a Cricut cut and I highlighted the two-tone ness of the cardstock. So all close to my heart cardstock has a true side and then a light side. And from there, sorry, the light is like crazy bright, but this is nectarine. And so you can see the two different colors of nectarine. This is the true side and then this is the light side. And then last week I played with the white core from the cardstock and the butterfly embossing folder and stencils, which are beautiful and like endless possibilities for sure. Absolutely. There's so many different things you could do with this. So this was a fun card. So today, as I promised, I said we would do a layout. So I'm going to add my desk on here and I'll show you I'm sure you might have guessed what we're going to do. So I'm sure everybody has maybe seen this layout that is like the promotional photograph that's in all the ads for the Cardstock Carnival from Close to My Heart. So I thought we would take this layout and I'm going to recreate it kind of how I think it would be super easy to replicate it. And then there's a few little things that I'm going to change because I actually have a plan for a second companion page, which either I'll do a live or I'll record the second half of the video. Just let me check and make sure I am in all the spots I am supposed to be first before we start doing the stuff. Okay. So you guys, if you have any questions along the way, make sure to ask them. I'm happy to answer them. But as I said, one of the other fun things about this promotion was that they added in these sheets of embellishments. And so they coordinate with the cardstock colors. Did you think that's what it was going to be, Don? Like I said, I have a few ways that I think it makes it a little bit easier to replicate the layout. And it's not going to be exact. I'm going to add some little different things on here. And like I said, I do have an idea for how I wanted to make a companion page for it. But so these embellishments are super fun. I was really excited to get these in the mail. So they're like a die cut sheet for I think there's 12 different colors. So these are the colors that I'm going to use in the layout. I pulled out the ones that coordinate because they're part of the layout. And so like I pulled out some of the frames and the stars. There's two different kinds of stars, right? There's the crisscrossy stars and then like a 5-point star. So these are how I picked my cardstock because I knew I wanted to play with the ones with the UV coating. So obviously, if you don't have the ones with the UV coating, you could cut some of your own shapes in Cricut to add to them. But it is just kind of really pretty, the UV coating that's on these. And they're nice and thin. It's not like a thick embellishment when you're going to add something that's going to add a ton of bulk onto your layout. So and there's some fun icons on here. So there's like leaves and flowers, hexagons, some hearts, some butterflies, some flowers, some tags. There's a camera. There's the frame that we're going to play with on the layout. There's balloons, which would make an awesome cluster on like a birthday card. There's buttons here. This says love. The E is just way over there. They squished a ton of different images onto this piece of UV coated cardstock. So, like I said, I wanted to use these on the layout. So I did pick my colors based on these. But this would be a super easy layout from the way I'm going to show you to assemble it, that you could totally switch it up so that you could use different colors. You could do like an ombre color scheme. You could do like school colors. You could do like really big drastic differences in colors and to create the layout. But so the first thing I did was I grabbed these embellishments. I'm just going to move some of my other stuff out of the way here. My carrot and my butterfly card. So then I pulled out my cardstock. So these are the colors. So for the blue, the embellishments are bluebird, but this was sapphire, and I wanted that dramatic difference. And I wanted the layout to have the same feeling as the piece of artwork. So, but the colors are candy apple, nectarine, sundance, lemonade, green apple, clover, lagoon, glacier, grape, raspberry, and then flamingo for the color scheme. They might have actually used butterfly, ballerina as the pink, and then just used the raspberry frame, as it does look a little bit lighter than flamingo, but we're going to go with the flamingo because that's what I picked. So here we go. I'm going to move these out of the way. So these are just like my scrap offcuts. So I keep them in like a page protector that I've cut the holes off of, and everyone has a tab with the name of the color. And then this tab, actually you can see the two different colors through because it's a clear tab cover. And so this is the true side where the name is, and then on the back is the light side. But so once I cut down a 12 by 12 piece of paper, I just throw the rest in these, and then they sit on the top of the shelf above any 12 by 12 pieces that I have. So that's where I started, was I picked my colors. And so once again, it's candy apple, nectarine, sundance, lemonade, green apple, clover, lagoon, glacier, grape, raspberry, and then flamingo. So I have these, and I have pulled out some of the pieces that we're going to use. Like I pulled off all the frames and stuff because I know I'm going to use those. And then I was just going to show you, like, so as I was punching things out, I was just throwing my extra pieces just into one of these little plastic containers so that I know where they all are in case they fall out. Because there are some little things like the little hearts and stuff if you didn't want to lose track of them. Like I said, they do actually stay pretty well in here, but once you start punching parts out, right, like some of them are multi-layered. So like for the frames, right here, I pulled the frames that I needed for the colors, and then inside is the little camera. So after I punched out the frames, I just made sure to throw all of my pieces back inside this container so that I wouldn't lose them when I was going to look for them. And then I could actually stash this in, there are 11 colors. So there's 12, so the embellishments, there's actually 12 colors of, but like I said, they didn't use the bluebird in this, and I swapped out the blue for sapphire. But there are 12 colors of the embellishments, and there's 11 different colors on the layout. So that's just like a little organization tip if you're worried about losing all the pieces, right? Because you can even see down on my desk, there's just little, those are the inside pieces and they're not actually anything. So like I would throw those in the garbage, but sometimes it's just handy to have something beside you to throw them back into. So then, okay, we're going to use some white gloss spray on the layout. I do have my white gel pen. I've grabbed black and white dots. I've grabbed some old stars because they just happen to be in my embellishment container I was looking at. So we'll use some of these on there, and then I've pulled out so you didn't have to watch the frame, some of the frames, and then some of the little embellishments. Okay, so like I said, I wanted to try and find an easier way to assemble this without making it super complicated and trying to worry about lining everything up, etc. So, and my measurements might be off. These are just a guess, but, and I switched some things up to change some parts of the layout when we get to them, but I was going to show you this and talk about this right at the beginning. So when I cut my 11 colors, and like I said, there's so many ways you can combine these or play with this layout in a different way. So the whole point of the layout is to play up the two-tone factor of the cardstock, right? This is the true side, and then this is the light side. So you can see it here right in the artwork. This is the lighter side, and then they've got the true side sandwiched right up against it. So I thought to create the layout, well, let's make it a little bit easier and do some of the prep work. So I actually pre-cut these and I adhered them together instead of trying to take a small piece and then add 1/4 of an inch beside it. So I cut mine at 3/4 of an inch. Who knows if that's actually right? It's relatively close. We'll see when we put it all together. So each piece I cut at like 3/4 of an inch by 12. We're going to cut it in the middle because it won't go from end to end on some places, but that's why they've got this big focal point in the middle of the layout, right? You can either cut 2 sections and adhere them together, or you can just cut it in half. So I have my sapphire piece that is the true 12, like the full 12 by 12. And then I cut this white daisy piece to 11 by 11. And then we're going to start to play around. So the first thing I'm going to do though, so there's like some white gloss spray on there. And then I actually think that some of this is white gloss spray, and then you can go back in with your white gel pen and add some more detail. So we're going to actually do that. But so the first thing we're going to do is get our first piece kind of, oh, there's a little A on here. So I'm going to start with, and so you can see it's all one piece, right? I just glued them together. So we are going to, I'm just going to cheat a little bit, like I said, and we're going to, let's move that up a little bit. Cut it in the middle-ish so that it'll span across the page. But look what I'm going to do here. So they have it kind of probably centered right there. And if you look, it does not actually go directly across the page. We're going to try and do ours directly across the page. So what I'm going to do first is draw a line diagonally across my page because it's going to actually all get covered up. So like I said, this is the 11 by 11. And I have just a big, whenever I need to go like diagonally across a page, like from one end to the other, I do have a quilting ruler that I keep just in a cupboard. I don't pull it out very often, but it makes it super easy to go from one end to the other. Okay, so I can go and draw my diagonal. And then, I'm just going to decide here. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm just lining it up so that this is actually like a 1/4 of an inch off the diagonal, and that's where I'm gonna start to adhere this. So I'm just gonna move this to the side, and we're just going to, so this I cut at a 1/4 of an inch, and this is 3/4 of an inch, like the base piece, right? So 3/4 of an inch and a 1/4 of an inch. So really you end up with 1/2 an inch and a 1/4 of an inch. If you want to cut them like that, that's totally fine too. But look, I thought this was much easier than trying to line up 1/2 inch sections and then run a 1/4 of an inch section beside it. But first thing I need to do is I need to split this piece. So I'm just going to actually, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Because it's all going to be covered up anyway. So I'm just going to cut it in half. And this one I'm going to run slightly off my page too, and then trim it out. So in this instance, right, because you just want to make sure that how you're adding them onto your page, you're doing them all the same. So there we go. If I put this one with my dark side to this side, then I'm going to do them all that way. You could totally reverse it also. And like I said, if you wanted to, you could cut 2 lengths and add them. But I think this should be fine. Okay, so then next we have our lagoon, and same thing, right? This piece will not fit all the way across our layout, so this one I'm going to cut too. So only the ones that I'm worried about, and it does, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. We can maneuver our box if we need to, so that everything fits. So I just want to make sure, right, that all my white daisies covered up. And then here I noticed, I actually think that will all get covered up too. But just by adding that one pencil line wherever you want it, it makes it so much easier as a starting point. And then you can literally just frame everything in. So then I have Glacier. Right? Still, we need more. So I'll cut this one. So like I said, I'm making sure all of my dark ones are on the outside. Okay, and then we have a grape. And there we go. When we get to grape, I've got enough length to go all the way across. Just so if you wanted to, you could still cut out just a little section out of the middle if you wanted to make sure, or you end up at a slightly different spot on your cardstock. There we go. And then I have a raspberry. I should have enough. Right, making sure my strip is on the outside. And then my flamingo. I think it was much easier to have the two pieces together, right, than trying to sandwich them up all the time. So you could totally add random stamping on your pieces of cardstock, or distress your edges. There's so many different things you could do. So then now I'm going to go backwards this way, and I've got green apple, and of course it's not long enough, right? So I'll just cut it in half. But I also think like that starting point, deciding where you want your starting point to be, is helpful, because then everything else just lines up from that. So, sorry, I just need to flip it. It's a little bit easier for me to see where the underneath is. But like I said, you could do any sort of color combination. Okay, so then next we're going to go lemonade. That's not lemonade. Oh my goodness. There we go. This one is lemonade. And this one should be the last one you need to cut. You could like pick your color strips to, like if you were going to do like a family photo shoot, to match your family photo shoot colors, like if you picked certain like colors to wear. Okay, so then we're going to do Sundance, and I have enough to go from end to end with Sundance. If you wanted to do fall colors, you could pick a great combination of fall colors and just repeat some of them. You could totally do a black and white theme with this. You could do like all your stripes black and then like a white 1/4 inch. Next we have nectarine. And then candy apple finally. So like that's just striking, just like that, with nothing even on top of it. But so now I flip it over. I'm just going to push it down. Sorry. There we go. Now I'm going to trim it from behind. So, and then I'll make sure all my edges are making contact. So just from trimming it from behind, you get that nice edge that makes it much easier to trim. So you get kind of the visual of a straight line. So see. And I'm just going to go like one color at a time. And then at this point, I'll just double check, like I noticed right here. I just need a little adhesive. And when I ended up gluing it down, I just had a little overhang there. So same thing, I'm just going to go over all my sides. This also, by attaching the two pieces together, when you're trimming from the back, you're not cutting one piece that's the 1/2 inch and then one piece that's the 1/4 inch. Sorry, they just touched down now onto my first mat. So I'm just going to push them out of the way, or they're going to stick on everything as we go. There we go. So there we go. I just find it easier to go from the corner down. Ooh, that's an awful noise. Okay. Almost done. And then we're going to grab our glitz spray and our gloss spray and sprinkle the layout. Okay, so there we go, looking good. So now you can see we can easily add that frame on there, and it hides all those spaces that are empty. But like I said, if you wanted to do something different and not cover up the whole middle, you could totally run two pieces side by side. You could put a smaller shape in the middle if you want to do something different. But everything is just sandwiched under there, so you don't need to really worry about it. Okay, so now I'm just going to take these pieces off my desk that have little bits of adhesive on them, because I will end up with them all over my sleeves and myself. So you could use the exact same thing to create a card front also. Okay, so now I'm going to put down my all-purpose mat because we're going to spray some gloss. I'll pull out the frame in a second and measure it. Okay, so now I have my gloss spray, and you're going to want to adapt your frame to what you want to put on your layout. So I will tell you what mine is, and then I'll show you what I'm going to put on my frame so that you can see. And I am going to stand up. It's just my ruler falling off my desk because it's so long. Okay, so I like to not spray gloss spray. I just like to splatter it because I find I have more control. If you want to spray it, that would totally work too. You could also just use your white gel pens if you wanted for more controlled marks, and I'll show you that too. And obviously you're not going to see it anywhere on the white anyway. And if there's certain spots where you want like a bigger drop, you can always touch down the end of the nozzle. So for example, if there were certain spots that you knew you didn't get any texture and you wanted texture, so this is just like the 10, and you can literally draw in your texture with dots in certain points. So obviously this is like a more controlled way to add the dots. But if there's certain spots that didn't get any gloss spray where you specifically want a dot or to add some dots, that is a super easy way to do it. You can almost just like color them in, right? You can also use like one of the texture steps with white pigmenting would work too. Okay, so at the same time, I am going to do the edges of my sapphire. And I only have to do like the frame around the outside. And here I am trying to get some bigger drops. So I'm just making sure, and if I want like to fill in some space, then I just make sure, right, that I tap down the end. Because I want it to look like it's gone off the inside piece. Okay, I'm just going to give this a second to dry. Well, more than maybe a second. But I'm going to wipe down my desk because, of course, it splattered over my all-purpose mat. But that's okay. I'll clean up my all-purpose mat after, though. And I find that if I just let the gloss spray dry on my all-purpose mat, it just pops right off because it's just like that acrylic base. So it's super easy to just flick them off after they're dry. So I'm just going to kind of reduce though some of the splatter everywhere else. Okay. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to put for my inside pieces. So this is an actual 4x6 photo, and then my mat is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and then my sapphire mat is 6 1/2 by 4 1/2. And so that is how I decided on the frame I wanted. So my frame, my sapphire is 8 1/2 tall by 8 wide, and then inside is 1/4 of an inch smaller than that. But I'm going to show you because I wanted 1/2 an inch like that, and then they have some white strips down here. And that's where I actually want to put my journaling. I don't want the little tiny journaling here at the bottom. I want it underneath my photograph. So I have 2 1/2-inch white pieces, and they are each 7 1/4. And so they're going to go down here with just a very small border, and that's where I'm going to add my journaling. Okay, so that's how I determined the size I wanted to do my frame. So this is stamped. It's super cute, but I didn't want to try and be stamping on camera with everything else going on. And I wanted to kind of keep it relatively short. So I thin cut my title, and it says U color, and in Canada we use the U for color, my world. And so I did use the Sheriff thin cuts, and they worked out perfectly. And so that's what I picked. And I actually did have, I had the elf out that they used, and I was cleaning up my office and I must have put them away. But so I just took the colors from the stripes and used scraps and cut out my banner. And so my banner is actually, I think it's 1 1/4 inches tall by 10. And then this is obviously just 1/4 inch larger all the way around. And then I just dovetailed the two ends. So that's how I decided the size that I wanted my white frame to be. So, or my mats to be. So if you wanted to use a larger photo or a different combination of photos, like obviously with a 4x6, if you wanted to use 2 3x4s, they fit into the same space. But if you wanted to use a 5x7, you might want the that piece to be bigger. So we're going to adhere this together while the rest of the stuff is still drying, and then we will assemble it. So like I said, I created the white so that I'd have 1/2 inch at the top. So that is what how I'm going to adhere it. So I just grabbed my handy dandy ruler. 1 2 3 4. So these are my kids, and I figure that is a perfect representation of You Color My World, because they have made my world quite exciting. So there we go. So now 1 2 3 4. That was, I wanted that nice white heavy border around this, so that's how I knew where to start with that one. And then I'll just add adhesive to the middle of this. And I think, no, let me just center this on my Versamat. So we're 7, so 2 on each side. There we go. And I'm not going to push this down just until, because I can't remember if I did 1/4 inch or yeah, I'm just going to move this up. So I predetermined by what I knew I wanted below how big to cut my mats. So, and I'm just going to go, I think I just did 1/8 of an inch apparently. See, I have from those little pieces, there we go. From all those little pieces I need to clean the adhesive off of my Versamat. Okay, and I'm still not pushing down really hard. And I can just add my white daisy pieces in. And like I said, I'm probably going to add just a little line around the outside of these journaling pieces so that they will stand out. You will also see them more, obviously, once I think my photo looks crooked. It could be crooked. Let's just turn it this way. There we go. Okay. So now let's start putting the pieces together. So this is going to go like this, and it is dry. And so obviously here's our sapphire piece. They have a white doodle line around the outside, and I'm going to decide after I put together, assemble, like design my second side if I will add the doodle line, because I want the pages to connect together. So I just want to make sure that it's going to, it could not look good with the two pieces, because I actually have, I'm going to carry the stripes over onto the other side, but they're not going to be in the same direction. So I just want to make sure that it looks okay before I actually do that. So there we go. So now we just need to oh, that's awesome. So I actually don't know how it is because it doesn't say, but I'm going to make this tonight with a picture of my granddaughters so I can use my old close to my heart magnetic frame. Oh, that would be awesome. And then just switch out the photograph every month. That's an awesome idea. Okay, and I'm going to have to fix this because obviously that was wet right there. So now I like that right about there. So I'm just making sure, right, it's centered this way. Now I have all of this stuff to put around it. So I am going to, that's okay, Debbie. Just sometimes it's because eCam doesn't have permission, so it can't actually show who it is, but that's a perfect idea. So I have all these frames I'm going to add. So I have them on my tray, but I'm going to cut them for everything that I tuck underneath because I want to be able to use the other portion of the frame on the other side. So I'm just going to add adhesive, not on top of this in case there are more spots that are wet. So I'm just going to add this over here. Okay. So, because obviously I had a little bit extra in that one spot. Okay, so I'm just curious. There we go. Okay, so I am going to add this on 3D foam, and then we'll start tucking our frames in. So like I said, this can totally be determined by the size of whatever photo or photos you want to add onto your page. It could be like a cluster of photographs, all of those fun things. And like I said, I could be totally off on my measurements, but I think it looks pretty good. So I wanted this on here, and then we'll start tucking the frame pieces in, and I will use whatever I have left over on the other side because I have more pictures from this day. So there we go. Okay, so the biggest, most frame they have sticking out there is the Lagoon one. So, but see, I still have extra, so I can keep that much. So I can see right here, I can cut off two, and they're super easy to tell, right? Because of the bubbles, I know that it's going to be straight. So I will keep this piece for the other side. And I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive to all of them and tuck them under, but I want the ability to be able to move them if I had to. So there's my adhesive. And Debbie, I'm sure your grandkids do color your world. So we'll go right about here. Okay, and then I have the clover one, and I'm going to split that one right in half, just like that. And so I have my other piece. Excuse me. 6 girls. That's awesome. Okay, so we'll put that one right like that. And so I'm just making sure that I don't have any of my cuts showing. So I'm just making sure my edge is tucked under. Okay, so then I have a green apple one I'm going to put over here. And I think this is gonna work out perfectly by saving the other pieces of the frame. If you only want to do one page, you could totally just use the frames as they are and leave them whole. There we go. Now we have a grape for up here. And I'll do 3 bubbles. There we go. And then raspberry. And I'll leave a little bit more of this one so that it is up. So I have 4 bubbles for this one. So you just want to kind of vary the sizes, right? So that they're all not exactly the same. And then, like I said, I'll just do whatever works on the other side with the rest of the frames. Okay, so that's at the top. And it is so bright in real life, you guys. This is fun. Okay, so I'm going to start over here with my candy apple, and I'll just do 3. Oops, sorry, touched the keyboard. There we go. And then on this side, the nectarine one is the longest one. So I'll do 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And like I said, I'm adding them in with adhesive, just like tape runner. And then if later I find that maybe something needs a little bit more, I can go back in with my glue and just kind of tuck it in. I just want to kind of get them where I want them first. And then if they need more, I'll add them. So then I have the sapphire, a Sundance, sapphire, no. There we go. Okay, and then lemonade. And so This one I'm going to do so that it kind of tucks like that. So this one I'm going to just cut here and here and tuck it in like that. And I will save this piece because who knows, maybe I can find a spot for it on the other side. Okay, so then I have some of the miscellaneous other shapes. The title is the Sheriff. So this is an older thin cut, but it's still available, but it is the Sheriff, Simple Sheriff alpha set. But you could use anything. I just knew that I knew because I have an extra letter too, like the U. I knew that it was going to be long and I wanted to try and keep it smaller. So this is a current alpha in the annual idea book that they used. So you always have that as an option. So we're going to do the heart. Right here. I might pop that up with 3D foam, but for right now it's gonna be flat. So I'm gonna pull out some glue dots to speed this process along a little bit. So now, like I said, I just have some of the miscellaneous shapes and I'm just going to add them onto the layout. And some of them can go on their actual color, and it doesn't really matter because they do have the UV coating, so you will still see them. Now for these, I think I might glue them down because they are just tiny. Like a tiny contact spot. So and you could totally add more embellishments or less embellishments. And you could totally swap out the title for something different if you wanted a smaller title. You could also stamp these like stars and the little like cross, like this one, doodly star on your layout too with stamps. I'm sure everybody has like some hearts and star stamps in their stash. You could also totally use like the background and texture stamp too. Whoop, stuck to my finger, not to my page. There we go. Okay. So these are all my frames. You could pop them up too on 3D foam. So why don't I actually do that with a few of them. Of course, I don't have any of the thinner width, so it's gonna have to be chopped up. Here we go. You could cut your title out with Cricut too, if you wanted to make sure that your letters were going to fit into a certain space. So because I glued these down with glue dots, I'm just being kind of careful. If it actually rips my paper, I'm kind of okay with that because I'm just going to put it right back down in the same spot. But I'm kind of just twisting it sideways to get it to come off. There we go. Okay, so then this one. And another Sundance. I have a smaller lemonade, so I'm almost done. Oops. Oh, this is nectarine actually. So we'll go in there. You could totally tell the second you put it down. Because they do match. And then because they have the UV coating, you can still see them on there. So a little candy apple one. There. And I kind of like that they just kind of cascade down the side. Okay, so a small lemonade. So I'll just connect that over the green apple. I have this piece of foam tape on my finger that I'm gonna cut up for these last two. And I really want to add 3D foam to that heart because it's bothering me now. So there's a lagoon star. Now too, the acrylic shapes will also add another, oh, I'm glad, Terry. We'll add another kind of texture in there too. So, and like I said, I just grabbed also some black and white dots that I thought I could spread in here. For yet another, like to match the acrylic pieces. Okay, so I have 2 more. I almost dropped it on the floor. Okay, and then one last star. And then I'll throw some acrylic pieces on and I'll be done. So, right there, I think. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to save those. So it would be super cool to have, right, like a shot of the 6 girls together on one side and then individually on the other side for like the second half of a layout. Okay, so I have here some black and white dots. And so they have the stars and hearts and dots. And then I have also just a bag of the acrylic stars. I actually think this might be one of the older bags, but I wanted a few of these. So there's not a ton in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, and they're all relatively big. I have one small one. But I'm going to add these with glue dots. So I'll do one down here because that's a nice grouping of colors. Like you could cluster onto the other side, right? 3 3x3s and 3 3x3s below, and then have one of each of them individually. So I just want some white over here. And I'm going to use this small one here somewhere. Here, that's where it's going to go. Right there. And then there. There. And then, so get rid of my glue dots because these have adhesive. So I'm just going to kind of take one big one, one medium-sized one, and then a small one. There we go. Oh, and then I'm just going to add, like I said, I think this heart is bothering me flat. So And it was on a glue dot, so I'm just twisting it. So, no, we are not. But I am doing something during the month of April, so you might want to watch for that event coming up. So you will see more details the beginning of May, which we're like, it's crazy. We are almost at. So there we go. That's what I've got for you guys today. So we Chris-ified that layout. And like I said, I do have an idea on what I would like to do on the second page. So make sure to watch for that. And really, I just kind of wanted to, again, highlight some of the fun things about the cardstock. That cardstock's constant, right? So you can make it suit anything that you might have, versus pattern paper sometimes is very specific with a theme and all of those kind of things. I think that once I add my journaling, the heart will fit in better. So that is what I think. That is my plan. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have any questions, make sure to ask. If you're looking for any more information about some of the things I do, make sure to stop by my blog at chrisiscreativelife.com. Have a great day, guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.